Hey, there you are. Come on in. Let's go talk about pocket knives. Hey YouTube, Southern Knife Hobbyist here, trying to feed your knife addiction again with another knife talk. This one is going to be on oddball and specialty knives. I have a few that are not standard pocket knives that you see every day, and I just want to share those with you. Some of them are oddball designs, and some of them are just designed for specific specialty things. So I have this one that you saw on my knife talk about folding hunters. This one does qualify as a folding hunter. It's a clasp knife design, sort of a semi-trapper design, and it has the, it's over the 5 inches, I think, which qualifies it. This one is called the Cherry Tree Chopper. It's by Frost Cutlery, and of course on the hatchet blade it has a picture of George Washington. Now, there were old knives that were made in this design that legitimately had a hatchet blade. Now, due to the pressure that would put on the spine, you would not be able to chop much with it, but you could use it with a baton to split some wood. But this one is an import, and it's made just to be a conversation piece. And of course, I have other knives. Here's one I've shown you before that is a conversation starter. This is when I did my knife talks on Stockman knives. This one, I had considered it a Stockman pattern at first, but really it is not. This blade is, well, of course the metal is very discolored there. This one is sort of a spear blade or semi-spay blade. It's an odd shape. The frame, if you'll see, the frame is actually a canoe pattern. And it is a 3-blade with a definite spay and a sheep's foot. So it doesn't really fall into any standard category, to any standard definition. It's not a standard recognized pattern. This, again, is an import. It's made, to be so overly huge that it's completely unusable, but it's a conversation starter. It was given to me as a Christmas gift by my parents, just as a gag gift, and I have really enjoyed that knife. When you tell someone you have a small pocket knife you want to show them, you pull that out, you're going to get some laughs. Now, I have some others here by Imperial that go to the opposite end of the spectrum. These are some very tiny knives. Now, there are pocket knives that are much smaller than these, but yeah, they're standard pocket knives. They were made by Imperial, so they are the shell-handled design, but they're working pocket knives. This one is a camper. You see, you have your blade, which has been, I think, tipped and reshapen, but you have a clip blade main, a tiny can opener, and a tiny screwdriver and cap lifter blade. This is more for a child to play with than anything, I think, or again, another conversation starter. And they're fun for that. Now, here is another Imperial. Looks much like those, but this one's a little different. I love to hand this to someone who just enjoys pocket knives, but they're not necessarily a collector, may not have seen it before, and watch them struggle to open it, because there is no nail nick, nothing to grab hold of to open the knife. If you want to open it, you tilt it this way and push the blade down. Oh, I'm sorry, I tilted it the wrong way. Tilt it this way. There we go. And it opens. The only way to close it is to tilt it the other way and push it in. This one is called an Imperial trick knife, and it is a trick. What looks like a can opener here or a bottle opener is actually part of the trick. There's a tiny pin in here that fits in a groove that can slide up and down. So when we tilt it down like this and close it, the pin falls into that slot and it remains closed. When you tilt it this way, then the pin rolls out of that slot and it allows it to open. So a fun little knife if you just want to frustrate someone and pull a trick on them. You can hand them the magician's trick knife or the Imperial trick knife, and you just show them how easy it is to open. Hand it to them and laugh at them when they can't do it. So another fun one there. Now, I've got 4 or 5 here that are specialty knives. They're not oddball knives like these are. These are made to be oddball or specialty. Even though they're all working knives, it's not something you typically carry. This one is a Swedish barrel knife. Now, this, again, is not an oddball knife. This is a specific design that is probably over 100 years old. I'm not sure if anyone still makes these or not. They're made in Sweden, and it's called a barrel knife because of the shape of it. It's shaped much like a barrel. There's no trick to this one, but most people don't know how to open it. You have a small spring right there. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm pushing it with my fingernail. You push that spring down and pull the body of the knife out of the handle. Okay? At that point, it folds, or unfolds rather, and you put it back in the handle the same way. There, and you have one that's like a fixed blade knife. A very good knife. Now this one is very, very worn, but again, it's over 100 years old. They typically have birchwood handles. This one has some burl to it, and a little bit of a knot. Really beautiful. Again, when you want to fold it back up, it's just a friction folder, but the wooden handle holds it in place. So it's kind of the best of both worlds of having a lock blade or not, or like having a fixed blade knife that will go in your pocket. So, and this one's a little smaller than standard. Many of them are an inch or two larger than this, but that's the one I have. When I bought it, someone had painted it green. It was covered all in green paint. I had to clean that off, and I lost a little bit of the patina on this metal here. I tried not to take off much of it, so we still have some rust on that. But again, it's a worn old knife, but very beautiful. This one is by P. Homburg of Eskilstuna, Sweden, and I dearly love this knife. I would enjoy, if I ever do knife making, I would enjoy making something along these lines, perhaps modify it a little bit. But yeah, just a wonderful knife. Here is another specialty knife. Many of you have seen these, many of you may not have, but it's a yachtsman's knife or a rigging knife. This one is by Camillus. Many different companies made them, but it has great snap on it. This is a sheep's foot blade. Now, that is intentional to have a sheep's foot blade where you don't have a real sharp, pointy point like you would with a clip blade or even a spear point blade. Because if you have this in a life raft and you drop it, you don't really want to puncture the life raft. So you're perhaps a little less likely to do so with the sheep's foot blade. The big spike here is called a marlin spike. And the marlin spike, it locks in place, and it's used if you are weaving rope together. I forget the name of it now, where you take 2 ropes and you undo some of it and weave the 2 together. I used to do that in Boy Scouts. And for the life of me now, I can't recall what that was called. Or if you have ropes that are tied in a knot and you need to untie the knot. This marlin spike is very good to get in between there and pull that wet rope apart. So that's what they were designed for. Now it is locking, and our shackle or bail here is the unlock mechanism to unlock our marlin spike. This particular one has a melted spot on the handle, and it's awaiting my pleasure to put new handles on it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Blade's a little scratched up. It's not a beautiful example of one, but it is an example of a knife just made for ship work, or yachtsman's knife. But anyway, I do like those. Here is another specialty knife that I love to show off. It's also by Camillus, and this one is a pipe smoker's knife. I doubt that anyone makes these anymore, but there we go. You just have a pocket knife specifically for pipe smokers. Of course, you have the small blade there, pin blade, that can be used for various things, even to maybe perhaps cut the tip off of a cigar, though it would not work as well as scissors or a cigar cutter. But perhaps you just want a small pocket knife blade and you've got it. This spike is unsharpened on any edge. It's just squared off at the end, but that's designed to clean out the stem of the pipe if it gets clogged up with soot and ash. And of course, the bolster, the only bolster it has on the rear end here, is designed with that flat edge similar to a doctor's knife, but that's used to tamp the tobacco down into the bowl of your pipe. So it's a pipe smoker's knife. Again, this is not a good example of one. Typically, they had some carving here that showed a pipe and a little smoke wreathed up around it. But this one is very worn. The blade has been tipped. But again, I fall in love with old sad knives that need to be worked on, or just don't have many people that love them. And so I like to take those in. I adopt them and give them a good home here. Here's another Camillus sword brand. And many people don't know what these are. Of course, this one, someone has put his initial in there, the letter R. But the man that did that is probably long gone. Beautiful hardwood handles. I don't know if that's ebony or just a dark walnut, but beautiful handles. This knife is sometimes called a timber race or timber scribe knife. And it was used for marking timber. Now, there were larger versions of this that were not folding knives, but this is the pocket knife version. And this is a Camillus sword brand, which is one of the Camillus top of the line back in the day. And if I can get the angle right on this, I hope I can, where you can see it. It's just folded over with a sort of like an upside down V notch there. And it's only sharpened right here on this end of that notch. That's the only place that it's sharpened. And the purpose was if you were marking trees to be cut down for lumber, for timber, you would go and you could cut an X or whatever pattern they had agreed upon. This was made just to slice through that bark and mark the tree. These, of course, have not been used in many years. Nowadays, they use little ribbons, plastic ribbons, or paint, spray paint, to mark trees for timber. You can either mark them to cut this tree or to not cut this tree, according to who you are, what your company's procedures are. But man, this would have been great back in the day to carve your initials with you and your girlfriend, carve them into a tree like people used to do. This would work perfectly for that. But anyway, just another knife that's probably near 100 years old, and it's a specialty design. It's not something you see every day, and you'll very rarely catch someone carrying one of those in their pocket. Now I'm going back into the oddball knives again. Now I've gone through some of the specialty knives. Here's some of the oddball knives that I have. Many of you have probably seen some of these. It's a cheap import, but I got it as a gift. So it's an NRA, this one specifically, but it's designed to look like a shotgun shell. Not that they're trying to trick anyone. It's just another conversation starter. It's similar to the giant knife or the baby knife or the hatchet knife. It's just something to show somebody, and it's a fun thing to talk about, have a conversation starter. Got a couple of knives here. This one is pretty old. This one is called Agent Zero. It's a plastic pocket knife. This one is a toy. This is not intended to be an actual knife or usable knife. It's a toy. Unfortunately, this one has been chewed on a little bit, either by somebody's baby brother or their pet. I don't know, but it has the plastic blade there. And it was made to be like a spy knife, sort of like your James Bond, as kids would play. You pull a barrel out, unclip this, and it's a cap gun. So you can open it up right here. There we go. You have to do it specially to open it up. You put the roll caps in there. And unfortunately, the trigger mechanism is messed up in this one. It springs forward, but doesn't spring back. It doesn't clip anything. But so it's damaged. But back in the day, some kid could play spy with this, and they would have a plastic pocket knife that unfolds into a gun, just as a toy. And but anyway, I got it just because it was interesting. It was in a bundle of real knives that I got, but I do like that one. It was the kind of thing I would have played with as a boy. And here is another toy, although it's not designed to look like a toy. This one has a metal blade, but it's not steel. It's got a little weight to it, but it's similar to pewter or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's a real cheap metal. The magnet barely sticks to it. So, but this one is made to also look like a gun. This one does fire, but there's no place to put caps in it. I guess you could put a single cap under that, and that would hold it and would allow it to pop like a real gun. This is pretty good to go with a pirate costume or something like that. It's just a conversation piece. Now, there were actually some real knives made with guns, combination knives and guns, usually a small .22 caliber or single shot, something like that. But this one is just a toy or a costume piece designed to mimic some of those old guns that were made that way. But it's kind of cool, and again, more of a conversation piece than anything. So, but there are a lot of knives out there that are just different. They're not your standard pocket knife. And some of them, again, are just oddballs. They don't serve a good purpose. You'll never use it. But then you have some here that were designed for a specific purpose, that were dearly loved and used and worn out. Used, someone smoked a pipe and the bolster is discolored, the handles are deeply worn because they use this knife quite a lot. So some of these specialty knives are really intriguing. And sometimes I collect a knife or gather a knife. I don't really collect knives. I gather or accumulate them. Sometimes I do just because I like the idea of it, or I like the story behind it. Or, one of these, I may take that to church and show it off to some of the men after church when we're standing outside fellowshipping and talking, and just kind of, wonder where all this thing has been, how old it actually is, who all carried it and used it. So anyway, some fun things to think about and talk about. And if you collect knives, you tend to have more of a focus on certain knives, and you may focus on oddball or strange knives, or you may be like me, you don't really collect, you just accumulate. You get something that you like, and if you like it and you can afford it, and you like showing it off, or you enjoy showing it off to other people, there's really nothing wrong with that. The whole thing about the knife hobby is to not only have something that you use in a pocket knife, but also just to have something that you enjoy. You enjoy showing it off, or you enjoy thinking about where it's been, or pretending like you're a kid again, playing spy games, whatever the case may be. I hope you enjoy pocket knives. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and may you have a blessed day. We'll see y'all later. Bye.